of stated earlier was that both of them kind of work on the same principle of the zero. So we're not too worried about, we don't have to zero it on top of the person's head, because they both use what we call an absolute zero function. So they know I've told this, or I've zeroed it over here, and the phone naturally goes to a horizontal zero position. So as you move these two devices, they're measuring to the relative or to the absolute zero position of the horizon, so both of them work really well. Good morning, Reeya. Thanks for joining me today. And how are things going at your end?
Good morning, Kevin. Thanks for having me. Things are going well, really busy. Nice to see the weather outside getting warmer.
You have some sunshine for a little bit of a change?
Yes, yeah. It's nice to be outside, even if it's a quick walk.
Well, I thought we'd have a little chat today. So I have been listening, and I sent that along to you, Alex Hermosi, Iranian American, started Gym Launch, and now he does acquisition.com. And one of the things that really struck me when I was listening to it was his idea about giving away free value, and this idea that we shouldn't be hiding things or not sharing things that we know. So I thought this would be a good chance for us to look at, I can pull it up here, but to look at something like an iPhone that you can use for range of motion. And I think when I had thought about this in the past, I thought, oh, I can't, I don't want people to know about that because it will stop people from buying my product. But now I think, hey, let's sort of talk about the things that are out there and the things that are available, and kind of go from there. So I shared some research documents with you. Did you get a chance to scan over those at all?
No, I haven't, but I did recognize a couple of the articles. I did look at some in my undergrad, but yeah, it's been a while since I've taken a look at those.
And so really what we were thinking about is this idea of, can I use my iPhone to measure range of motion? That was really the topic that we wanted to discuss today. And as we kind of position ourselves, I guess, as scientists in the healthcare space, I wanted to look to see if there was any research in behind it, as opposed to just, there's often apps that we can use. But I think what's interesting about this is that a bunch of people did that. So why don't I share my screen with you just to kind of give people a sense of what we mean by that. And so, I don't know what. Tell me a little bit about you're doing your PhD right now. When someone says do research, what is does that mean just go on Google for doing research, or what do you do as a PhD student when you're thinking about research?
Yeah, well, currently my first year PhD in global health. When research is expressed to me, the first thing I think about is it valid? Is it reliable? So looking at different sources, especially journals. So it's nice that you have a journal right up in front of you. You're looking at valuable and evidence-based research, which is really important to me, especially if you want to use that type of information to back up anything you're looking at for scientific evidence. So for looking at something like this, go into a journal right away, or looking at actual clinical evidence, that would be kind of my first go-to.
Cool. And so I was pleasantly surprised. What about the dates of things? I see this one's like a 2022 article here, comparison of smartphone app to manual knee range of motion. And what do we got here? 2023. How do articles go stale? Do they go bad?
I wouldn't say they go bad. I think the good thing about research, or the interesting thing about research, is that research is always evolving. So you always want to keep a lookout for updated articles. You always want to keep a lookout for new information that's being released, because research is being released almost every single day. There's always new articles, new innovations. Dates are important. So you always want to kind of, depending on your research, you want to look at kind of the recent publications. So that would be between 5 to 10 years of publications. So I would completely agree in terms of, if you are looking at this research, looking at a range between 5 years is a good way to kind of start your research, especially since technology is innovating and evolving into the healthcare setting.
Okay. And, like I'm not a major article, or I guess I do read articles, but I'm not like studying those articles. I guess a lot of times articles will refer, what I'm seeing is they refer to other articles within their data set. So I guess maybe that's where old articles don't necessarily go stale, because they got re-reference. Is that sort of a fair statement?
Yeah, absolutely. They're always re-referenced, they're always cited by other articles. That's kind of one thing I do, is if I read a systematic review, so just a review overall, I would go to, if I find a information or a statement that I find valuable, I directly go to that referenced article or that cited article to, look through that article, and then kind of like a cycle onwards.
Okay. And like, what do you mean by like, what is a systematic review actually? What does that actually mean?
So that's just a type of literature review that's done. It's a type of protocol to go through and find articles online that's relevant to a specific topic. So say, for example, I want to study digital inclinometers for the knee and its effectiveness. I would go through a certain protocol through a journal, or PubMed is a database that's typically used, and I would type in some keywords. It would be an entire systematic approach to writing and researching in the literature. And then you would write about it in a specific type of way. So there are different types of reviews. There are systematic reviews, there are scoping reviews. So kind of just going through an entire scope, or a different type of procedure, or a specific type of procedure to learn about a topic and write about it.
Cool. So, I just did a kind of like, surface analysis of this kind of stuff. You know, I wasn't about to write a PhD on this topic. I just really wanted to see, what did other people think about, the good news was that people actually had been thinking about it, and not just talking about it like we are, but they'd actually gone ahead and done some research on it. And, my, it appears that the interclass correlation coefficient up to 98%, or I'm sorry, 0.98. The suggestion here is that that's good news. That the inter-rater reliability is high, and this one in particular echoes these findings, demonstrating that smartphone apps not only match the accuracy of standard goniometers, but in some cases even reduced measurable variability. And so I think really I wanted to satisfy myself to say before, I might recommend to somebody, if you have a goniometer that you've been utilizing, and that goniometer is locked away in your desk, and you have a phone in your back pocket, is it acceptable to use that phone to do a particular measurement? So I feel like I was satisfied with the research, and based on our conversation, what you've seen so far with that, you think that's a fair statement on my end?
Oh, I completely agree. I think smartphones are a very convenient way and accurate way, as you can see on some of the statistical analysis, to use as a tool for range of motion.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. What I thought would be kind of fun then would be to kind of go through and actually, do a use case, right? So like, reading things, reading things only can only entertain us for so long. So I thought I have, I've got my cell phone and I've got a goniometer and I have an inclinometer here, and I know that you have your phone with you. So I thought maybe we could just walk through and kind of take that through. And I think I'm an iPhone user myself. Although not a complete Apple convert, because I'm still using PCs to do my other stuff, which is significantly different than I see in my student population. Everyone seems to be using Apple products in my classrooms, but yeah. So you have on your phone. I don't know how well this is going to work, but probably not very well. There's a measure app on your iPhone, and so if you look at that measure app, it actually has a measure, and it has a measure function, so you can measure distance. And as I was sort of searching around for how that kind of stuff, I did. Generally, people didn't seem thrilled with the idea of the accuracy of the Apple Measure app for its distances. They said it was okay for maybe negotiating a bet or something like that, but they wouldn't want to use it for construction projects.
Mhm.
But clearly that's a little bit different than what we see. So if you switch over, you'll see the level app on the other side. And the cool thing about the level app is that that's what this research has all been done. So all the research articles that we looked at are looking at the level app on the iPhone in most cases, or if you're an Android user, you'll find that there are many. If you search up goniometer or level in the App Store, you're going to find. And, I came across dozens last night when I was looking at it. I know these research articles mention any number of those things. So there are a bunch of those, and they're all I shouldn't say all, but mostly they're free applications that you can put on your phone there. So that's how that particular part would work. So did you find that on your phone?
Yeah, it was a little hard to find at first, but got it.
You got that there. So I thought maybe we could go through the idea of just doing, because you're sitting down, we could just do like a neck range of motion kind of idea. It won't be perfect because obviously there's not a person involved. So I mean, as interesting as research and reading articles is, I thought it would be make a little bit more sense if we spent a little time and just tried these things out that way. So I think you have an Apple phone, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So if we look on our Apple phones, there is a measure app on your Apple phone. And then that measure app typically has something that actually measures, so you can measure actual distances. But then if you flip to the other side, it has a little level piece there, and you can see there it's just gone to a nice green level, and it works that way. So the iPhones all have it built in. I've used it in many of my student classes. We've been able to find it. If you are an Android user, you'll be able to download any number. So if you search in the App Store for anything that says Gani or range of motion or even level, you'll find multiple apps for that. I did see a couple of paid ones, but a majority of them are, a significant amount of them are actually free. So my suggestion would be to start with the free version for that piece. So you found that okay? So I thought maybe we could just kind of go through and do a little range of motion and sort of see how that functions. So let's take a look at your neck range of motion. You want to put that on the top of your head there? And so if we were trying to landmark this, then we would landmark this to like the placement would be in the center of your head. So like on your, like if I'm looking at my ears, the center of my ears is going to kind of give us this placement that way. And then if I'm looking kind of back, back to front, same kind of idea, so that we kind of get you right on the top of the head is going to kind of give us that that mark there. So if you want to go to that place there, perfect. And we can see you're you're actually pretty level right now. So if you go off to the right for me, let's see how that works. All right, 55, 57 degrees, and then come back up into a neutral position. So we don't need to read-neutral at this particular point, because we're really just interested in what's happening at the end ranges. So if we go off in the other direction for us, we got a little bit of sunshine in there. That's not quite making any sense. So I think maybe you're tilting it. Let's come back up to the zero mark. Okay. So go off to the side, kind of keep it level and stop there for me. At 54 degrees. So come back up to the near. Oh, that's interesting. So let's take that down a little bit, and I can kind of walk you through. You can take it off your head if you want now. So it's what's happening. So when I was doing that, actually, so when you get down into these degrees, into the 50s and stuff like that, it works pretty well. As it starts going over this way, it's trying to re-zero itself. So it actually doesn't like, I hadn't noticed that before. It doesn't actually like bigger numbers so well, because it has sort of 2 0 values that it kind of wants to work off of. So you can hold your phone in a portrait or a landscape kind of mode, and so it kind of zeroes itself on. So a 0 from that perspective there, or it also will kind of zero itself from this perspective as well. So it doesn't. I think another thing we'll have to add into our thing. So it doesn't do a good job of being allowing you to go a little bit further. So if we can kind of compare that to say like the use of an inclinometer, it's going to, as you get above those higher numbers, it's not changing from portrait to landscape. So it's able to measure those higher numbers, and it's coming back through. What I was trying to state earlier was that both of them kind of work on the same principle of the 0. So we're not too worried about, we don't have to zero it on top of the person's head, because they both use what we call an absolute 0 function. So they know I've told this, or I've zeroed it over here, and the phone naturally goes to a horizontal 0 position. So as you move these two devices, they're measuring to the relative or to the absolute 0 position of the horizon. So both of them work really well in that particular case. And then where this phone is failing a little bit is that it's switching over because it wants to go to that portrait kind of piece on that side there. How did you feel having the phone on top of your head? Like, can you just describe your experience with it on top of your head?
Yeah, no, it was fine. It was easy to use. Obviously, it would be probably a little bit more accurate having someone else, helping me and keeping an eye on the degrees. But overall, it was pretty easy to use, something that I could probably do in front of if I wanted to measure ranges of motion.
Did it feel stable on top of your head? Maybe I'm sort of asking a leading question, but that's okay.
I guess it did a little bit. Once again, it would be a little bit more stable having someone else there, but
even without worrying, let's not even think about necessarily having someone else there. Let's think about your experience with holding that there. Did you feel like well, actually, you know what? Let's try another one first. Maybe we'll try like a wrist range of motion. Does that make some sense? So you can put that back on. Okay, level, and then you can bend over you can move your wrist. And really all I'm looking for, I'm okay, go ahead and do the wrist movement there for me. Yeah, so again, we have run into the same problem. It really wants to go back. It really wants to go head back to the 0. So it's actually not working very well for doing any bigger numbers, and then come back up again. But really the what I wanted to address here was really this idea. Can you speak to how did the stability of the phone in this direction feel in the putting it on your hand versus putting it on the top of your head? Can you speak to that at all?
I would say it was pretty stable.
On your hand, and what about on the top of your head?
Yeah. I would say it was also pretty stable too.
Can you put it back on top of your head? Put the phone back on top of your head? And without moving your neck, are you able to move the phone?
Yep.
So that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So that's where my concern is with the phone. Versus something like an inclinometer. So I'm really just talking about surface area here. So because the surface area on your hand, or even like if you're using your shoulder, if you're doing shoulder external rotation, for example, the surface area is not going to be a problem, because this phone, no matter what I do, the phone is only going to move when I move the joint. I just tossed my phone on the ground there. So I need to use the password. Versus with a smaller surface area, then what we're looking at, obviously bigger things aren't going to be a problem for it, but here on the top of my head, even with my bald head, there's less wiggle in that plane with this particular device. And the other thing that you were struggling with was this movement here, because again, these devices are similar to each other in the sense that they move through this plane. They don't move in this, they're not measuring in this angle direction, right? They're measuring in this angle direction. And what I did notice is the other thing with the weight of the phone, it started to tilt this way and that way. And again, it's the sort of stability issue that you're running into. So this is going to be, the inclinometer is more stable because it's smaller, and it's more stable because it's wider and more square. So those are the two concerns that we were going to have on that side there.
Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah, I completely agree in terms of surface area and width. The inclinometer would definitely be more stable in that regard. I wasn't really, those thoughts didn't really cross my head as I was doing that, is, like forward or backwards. But I guess, yeah, it felt stable because I was holding it, but I completely agree. That's interesting.
And then, like, I think for purposes of, like when we're looking at this thing, and now assuming that we're kind of staying under sort of 60 degrees, and we can kind of look at the absolutes in a minute, but it's a matter then of just looking at the number and being able to read the number. If we look at something like our inclinometer, as we move the inclinometer, we have a little hold feature, which I really like. Then I can read the number, hold the number on there. But if I think about use cases a little bit, I'm not too worried about that part of it, as long as I'm close to what I would be. So let's go back and think about when we might use the phone and when that might be appropriate. Like, so if we were doing a treatment, let's say we're physical therapists, we're doing a treatment on somebody, they're coming in with a spine, low back issue, and we just want to see how far they can bend forward, and we want to use it for repeated measures in a clinical application, right? We want to say, hey, week 1, we dropped this phone on you and you were only able to bend forward about 2 degrees, and then 2 weeks of our treatment, now you're able to get down to 45. I think the phone in that application really works super well. it's going to be in your pocket probably. Already we know that the research tells us that it's as accurate as doing it with a goniometer. And we already know it's probably more accurate, because I don't know if we didn't even talk about this, but I mean, like, if you're talking about a goniometer does not work very well for measuring spine range of motion. So I think the phone is a real plus. It's actually a real plus for even doing like neck range of motion. So like for me, in clinic, I would probably be looking at using the phone over a goniometer for doing, adding objective treatment outcome measures to my stuff. And so I think what I noticed was that it works quite well for a single measure. So when I'm doing a single measure and I just have to look at that, what's the number reading on there now? Can you see that?
35.
So if I just need to read that 35, it works quite well. If I had to do a bunch of measures, it starts to get I found that, like if you touch the screen, it kind of resets it, like, because the cool thing is it can zero at different things. So if you were looking to, if the person had a forward head posture and you wanted to look at their zeroing value, then you could look at that. What I do find is then I'm having a harder time resetting this to zero to do multiple measures. So if I was going to be doing multiple measures, then I think the use case makes more sense with an inclinometer, or if you're comfortable with doing with a goniometer, then doing the multiple things. And so obviously our mainstay is the functional capacity evaluation. So I think in the realm of a functional capacity evaluation, probably the inclinometer would be the tool of choice for me. Although, now that I think about it a little bit, with range of motion in an FCE, we're not doing full body range of motion anyway. So I do actually think there's probably a use case for using your phone as a tool, and then we can kind of look at the outcomes there. So let's call it a day at that, Reeya. So we looked over, we found that there's research that tells us that phones are as good as goniometers. That was predominantly what it was. It was less about phones and inclinometers, but we know that they're comparable to the goniometers, and we kind of looked at some quote unquote practical use cases of those things. We we love the phone because it's free. We love the phone because it's going to be in our pocket. And the only negatives really, like, the negatives are going in this direction and this direction, and then the bigger concern I have right now actually is this idea that it's flipping its zero value around, and maybe we can't get numbers that are much higher than 60 or 70 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, it was lovely to see you again today, and I look forward to chatting with you the next time we come up with a good topic for discussion.
Thank you, Kevin, for having me.